the galaxy's most legendary high-stakes table sat under a single golden spotlight. A human hand placed one glowing chip in the center.
A human? They can't read faces. This will be easy.
He's nothing. Just a soft skin with more currency than sense.
Let him play. The odds will sort him out.
The dealer's alien hands slid holographic cards across the green felt. The first hand began. Kale pushed a mountain of glowing chips forward, his scaled face a mask of arrogance.
I call.
For a microsecond, Kal's slit pupils narrowed. Jason caught it, the smallest tell of a bluff. Kale revealed his hand, a hopeless bluff. Jason turned over a modest two-pair and collected the enormous pot. The table froze. Zix clicked angrily. Vor's colors shifted blue, and Kal sat stone silent. A human had seen through them all. The next hand dealt. Vor's translucent skin flickered violet, a subtle emotional tell Jason had studied. He called the bet without hesitation.
You are bluffing. Your colors always shift violet when the cards are weak.
Vor folded, his colors darkening to a sickly green. The pot slid toward Jason once more.
Impossible. He must have a scanner hidden in his optics. No one reads a Vor's chromatophores that fast.
The security chief, a massive four-armed Tarak, stepped forward, a biometric scanner humming in his grip. Tarak waved the scanner over Jason's head, searching for hidden tech. The device beeped a single neutral tone.
He's clean. No implants, no subdermal links. Explain this, human, or your winnings will be void.
There's nothing to explain. I see what's in front of me. Zix, your mandibles twitch when you hold a strong hand.
Preposterous. You are a liar. We will not play against an unreadable anomaly.
Then we will design a test. A species you've never seen. Human. One you cannot have studied. If you read that, I will certify your skill.
You want proof? Fine. Kal, when you bluffed, your pupils tightened. Just a flicker. But I saw it.
Lies. A lucky guess. My eyes reveal nothing.
Jason leaned forward. His half-smile held no cruelty, only the patience of a man who'd seen 1,000 human tells.
Your species evolved slit pupils for hunting. When you concentrate, they narrow. When you relax, they widen. Right now, you are concentrating because I am a threat.
Kale's jaw tightened. A tiny muscle twitched beneath his scales, a tell even he didn't know he had.
Enough. You are a predator among prey. I will not be studied. Neither will we, Kal. Stand down. The human's demonstration is persuasive. The test will proceed.
Zix clicked anxiously. Vor's colors faded to gray, and Kal slammed his fist on the table, but said nothing.
Bring the blank. We'll see if your human gift extends beyond species you've studied.
Orifex whispered to Tarak, and moments later, a door at the far end of the hall slid open. A pale, unblinking figure stepped through.
This is Zeth. The ossuary species has never interacted with humans. One hand, read him correctly. Keep your fortune. Fail. Forfeit everything, down to your last credit. Do you accept?
I accept.
Zeth settled into the chair opposite Jason, moving with an economy that hinted at hidden discipline. Their face was a mask of pale glass. No visible facial muscles, no twitching mandibles, no chromatophore shifts, nothing.
No visible tells. That's not possible. There's always something.
Dealer, proceed.
The dealer's slim fingers flicked, and 2 holographic cards slid in front of each player.
Eyes. The eyes are always the gateway. Focus.
Around the table, Kal bared his teeth in anticipation. Zix's mandibles quivered, and Vor's colors darkened to an expectant violet. They wanted to witness this human undone. Zeth simply stared, unmoving, a cipher of unreadable stillness. The test had begun. Jason stared at Xeth, cataloging every inch of the pale face. The seconds stretched into a long, breathless minute.
Nothing. No pulse under the skin. No flicker in the eye. He's a statue.
Zeth's hand extended, and a stack of chips slid forward, a bet large enough to make the room gasp.
That's a confident bet. Almost too large. Bloat or strength. Can't tell.
See? The human hesitates. He's finished.
Jason didn't move. His fingers stayed flat on the felt. The delay was a weapon, but even he could feel the edge dulling.
Time is not infinite, Mr. Reeves. The house requires a decision.
Think. Something always leaks. Pupil dilation. Lid tension. Breathing. His chest isn't moving at all.
Zeth's bet loomed, a silent, gargantuan wager that would strip Jason of everything if he called wrong. The table waited. Zeth's large, dark eyes reflected nothing but the golden light overhead. Jason's eyes narrowed. In Zeth's right pupil, a near-invisible dilation pulsed, wide when the chips went in, wider still as the bet sat unchallenged.
Big bet. Big pupil. A release of tension, confidence. That could be the tell.
He needed a baseline. A small raise, a probe. Jason slid a modest stack across the line without breaking eye contact. Zeth matched it. For an instant, the pupil constricted, tighter, guarded, not wide.
Pupil narrowed when he called. Not confident. He's protecting something.
The pattern crystallized. Wide pupil on the attack, narrow on the defense. A binary switch.
If I push now, the pupil tells me his hand. One more raise.
Jason pushed all his remaining chips forward in a single, deliberate motion. The re-raise was massive, a tournament on a pupil.
I am all in.
Seth froze. The dark pupil held steady, then began to shrink. Tiny, incremental, unmistakable.
Your pupil is collapsing. A fraction smaller every second. You don't have the cards to match my bet.
Zeth's shoulders dropped. The pale fingers released the cards in a slow, deliberate fold. Jason collected the largest pot in the casino's history, without a flicker of celebration.
He can't. That was an ossuary. No one reads an ossuary.
Four's colors went blank white, and Zix emitted a single, high-pitched tone of disbelief.
Mr. Reeves, the house requires an explanation. What did you see?
Pupil dilation. It's an autonomic response to cognitive load. I learned the correlation in real time.
The table erupted. Accusations of collusion, hidden tech, psychic manipulation, all of it baseless.
Enough.
Orifex raised a single silver palm. The room fell silent, but the manager's eyes held no victory, only the cold arithmetic of consequence.
Mr. Reeves, your demonstration was definitive. The house recognizes your skill, but it cannot become a precedent.
Skill? It was blind luck. One hand proves nothing.
It's not luck. Humans evolved to detect deception. We read micro-expressions, tiny muscle flashes. You can't control. I could teach any of you to see them in each other. It would take about a week.
The offer hung in the air like a thrown gauntlet. No one moved.
Teach us? You'd make us all transparent to each other. You'd ruin the game.
The game is already ruined, if you can't trust it. I am offering to make it fair.
Orifex studied Jason with an expression that might have been respect, or might have been fear.
We will recess. The council will determine the future of cross-species play.
With a sweep of his robes, the manager withdrew, leaving the table in heavy silence. Jason remained seated, alone at the grand table. The golden spotlight felt cold now, the silence heavier than the earlier chaos.
I just broke the most unbreakable game in the galaxy, and I feel nothing.
His mind drifted to a smoke-filled room back on Earth, a scarred table. A man in a baseball cap hiding a tell under the brim.
That guy, he'd look away when strong, stare right through you when weak. Took me 3 hours to crack him. 3 hours for one human. 5 minutes for an ossuary. They're not harder to read. They're simpler.
He traced the felt with a fingertip, the chip stacks around him, monuments to a victory he couldn't value.
I came here looking for the ultimate challenge, Turns out it was back home the whole time. Aliens leak tells like open faucets. Humans lie with every muscle. That's the game I miss.
He stood up slowly, the chair scraping against the marble floor, and looked around the empty hall. This was his last night.
I'll give most of it away. Keep enough for a boat and never sit at this table again.
Orifex returned to the silent table, his voice carrying the gravity of final arbitration.
After emergency deliberation, the Council has ruled. Effective immediately, all cross-species tournaments are permanently banned. The integrity of the game must be preserved.
Jason gave a single, unhurried nod. Then he addressed the room with the same calm he'd used to call every bluff.
I'll be donating 90% of my winnings to interstellar orphanages. The rest, enough for a small boat back on Earth. That's all I need.
A collective gasp rippled through the remaining aliens. No one had ever walked away from such a fortune voluntarily. He separated the chips, a modest stack for himself, the massive remainder pushed toward the dealer for processing. A holographic notice flickered into existence above the table, etching the ban in 6 languages. The largest pot in the casino's history sat untended. No longer a prize, just a number. Jason picked up his small case, the weight of it perfectly insignificant.
You all think I am some kind of anomaly. I am not.
His voice was quiet, carrying the weight of absolute certainty.
Humans evolved to read faces. Deception meant death among our kind, so we learned to see micro-expressions.
Kal's scales paled. Zix's mandibles froze. Vor's colors drained.
Aliens have tells too. Pupils, chromatophores, clicks. I learned yours in a week.
Orifex tilted his head, the closest to astonishment his species allowed.
Any human could do this. That's the secret you've been calling a lie.
The players looked at each other as if seeing their own faces for the first time.
I didn't cheat. I just paid attention. In a room full of liars, that's the deadliest weapon.
He stood, the chair's scrape echoing through the silent hall, and walked away from the fortune he never wanted. Jason walked the long, dim corridor, the case light in his grip. Alien patrons parted wordlessly, as if he carried a contagion. At the docking bay entrance, the house manager's voice echoed from a hidden speaker.
Mr. Reeves, tell your kind they are not welcome at our tables. This game is over.
Over. It was over before I sat down.
He stepped into the small, unmarked ship that had brought him here, no larger than a weekend cruiser. The thrusters ignited, and the ship peeled away from the Grand Casino station, shrinking the Golden Monument to a speck in seconds. Inside, Jason sat before the viewport, starlight sliding past in silent streams.
They think they banned me. They just saved me the trouble of quitting. A week to learn their tells. A lifetime to miss the real ones.
The autopilot locked on to a tiny blue dot in the distance, and Jason leaned back, letting the galaxy fall away. Alone in the ship, Jason watched the starlight slide past, letting the silence settle around him like a familiar coat. His thoughts drifted not to Kal's pupils or Vor's colors, but to a dim room on Earth years ago, a scarred poker table, a man in a baseball cap hiding a tell under the brim, a woman with a quiet laugh and deadly eyes.
Eddie would touch his ear when the river helped him. Maria laughed right before she bluffed. I spent decades learning their tells, and they still managed to surprise me. Aliens gave me a single switch. Humans gave me a symphony of lies.
The nav screen beeped, drawing his gaze from the memory to the viewport. Earth hung there, blue and waiting. He murmured it to the empty cockpit, the words tasting of nostalgia and truth.
They're harder to read.
Earth grew larger, its familiar patterns of land and sea stretching wide. The galaxy's edges could keep their games. The ship touched down at a quiet coastal marina. Jason stepped onto the dock, breathing salt and home. A handful of local currency bought him an old sailboat, weathered teak, patched canvas, its name faded. He stepped aboard alone. No crew, no fanfare, just the creak of aged wood under his weight. He cast off the lines, the boat sliding from its slip into the mirrored bay. The small engine pushed past the breakwater, then he cut it, and silence deeper than the void fell. He raised the mainsail, a single triangle, and let the coastal breeze fill it. Jason settled against the tiller, his hand on the polished wood, feeling the tremble through his palm. The shoreline receded. Houses became dots, the noise draining away until only water hushed.
This is what a fortune buys. Not chips. A quiet morning with no one to read.
The sun climbed. Jason leaned back, letting the boat steer itself toward the open sea. The sun curved toward the horizon, painting the sea in orange and gold. Jason stood at the helm, one hand on the tiller, staring out.
The galaxy's high-stakes table already feels like a story someone else told.
He didn't regret walking away. The fortune, the fame, it never fit.
What I miss is a human face across the felt. The micro twitch before a bluff, the lie behind a smile.
The half-smile returned, that unreadable curve that had unsettled a room of aliens.
They were simpler. Humans are the real puzzle.
The sea stretched to the edge of sight. No land, no ships, only water and light. He adjusted the sail, a small, practiced motion, and settled back. His eyes held the horizon, content in the quiet knowledge that the best game was always waiting back home. A distant hum broke the quiet. A starship, silver against the darkening sky, arced toward orbit. Jason watched it climb, a thin line of light.
I could be on that ship. One call, and the galaxy's tables would open again.
His fingers flexed on the tiller. The old wood creaked, a sound more honest than any alien boast.
I'd win. I'd win every hand, and it'd mean nothing, like beating a mirror. Eddie used to lick his lips when he had a monster hand. I never told him. That secret was the game.
The half-smile deepened, but his eyes stayed on the water, not the sky.
Number. The real game isn't up there. It's in the back room of a bar in Cincinnati. It's a friend lying with a grin.
He turned his back to the vanishing light and faced the open sea.
Let them ban me. I banished myself first.
And the boat sailed on, a small solitary shape on a darkening sea, carrying a man who had found his edge. A soft chime cut through the salt air. A slim comm unit, tucked in the cockpit, pulsed with an incoming transmission. Jason picked it up, the crackling voice of Orifex filling the silent sea.
Mr. Reeves, I trust your retirement is peaceful. It will not remain so. The cross-species ban has triggered an economic cascade. A coalition of worlds has petitioned the Galactic Council to declare humans a predatory species, to isolate Earth entirely. They demand that you return, to prove that any human can be taught, and to teach a selected group. If you refuse, sanctions will be imposed within a standard month.
They want me to be a teacher, to arm the galaxy with the one skill that made me unbeatable.
Jason looked out at the vast, indifferent ocean. The choice was his, a quiet life of his own making, or a return to the world he'd left as a conquering enigma.
If I don't, Earth suffers. If I do, every alien at a table will see what I see. They'll be harder to read.
The comm unit sat silent, waiting. No starships, no threats, just the weight of a decision that would ripple across the galaxy. And, for the first time since he'd sat down at the galaxy's high-stakes table, Jason Reeves didn't know what his next move would be. Jason lifted the comm unit, the salty breeze whipping his hair, and when Orifex's hologram shimmered, he spoke without preamble.
I'll do it. Orifex. I'll teach them. But on my terms, my conditions.
The silver face remained impassive, but the slight tilt of the elongated neck betrayed curiosity.
Name them.
One broadcast. Every species receives it simultaneously. I'll show the tells of all major species, including humans. No secrets, no edge.
Orifex's eyes flickered, an uncharacteristic display of surprise in a species that prided control.
If you share your own tells, you will never dominate a table again. You will be, as you put it, just a human.
Exactly. That's the only kind of game I've ever wanted. One where I have to work for every read. Human poker prepared me for that. This galaxy's tables never could.
The alien manager considered, then inclined his head with a grace that spoke of formality and concession.
The coalition will be informed. The sanctions are lifted effective immediately. Tomorrow you will teach the galaxy what a smile truly means.
At dawn, Jason positioned a tiny recorder on the tiller, the ocean a calm mirror. He began without flourish.
My name is Jason Reeves. I am a human, and I am going to teach you how to read every face in the galaxy, including mine.
The broadcast went out raw, unpolished, a man and his honesty. In 1,000 worlds, holograms flickered to life.
Micro-expressions, tiny, involuntary muscle movements, betray truth in every species. A Kaal's pupil narrows before a bluff. A Vor's skin shifts violet when cards sour. Humans, we tense our lips before a risky call. Our brow furrows a fraction of a second before a fold. These are the tells I've used for years. Now you see what I see. No secrets, no edge. You are welcome at any table I am at, but bring your best lie, because I'll be looking.
3 standard days later, a galaxy-wide decree scrolled in a dozen languages. Human territorial designation removed. Cross-species play permitted with certified education.
You have undone your own legend, Mr. Reeves. The tables will never fear a human again.
That was the point. Now the game is fair. Now it's actually a game.
And as the sun climbed over an empty sea, Jason turned off the recorder and picked up a worn deck of human cards, ready for the only opponent who ever truly tested him. A week later, Jason walked into a smoke-choked bar on the wrong side of a coastal town. Neon buzzed above a battered green felt table. 3 men looked up from their cards. One wore a baseball cap pulled low. Another had a gold tooth and a lazy smile. The third just nodded.
Room for one more?
The cap man pushed out a chair with his boot. Buy-ins 50. No credit. No crying. Jason placed a single chip on the felt, a leftover from a galaxy away. The game was slow and merciless. Jason lost a small pot to the gold-toothed man's exaggerated frown, a tell he'd later realize was a double bluff.
He used the frown to mask the truth. He knows I am looking. This is a real game.
Hours passed. Chip stacks shifted. By the end, Jason was up a modest sum, but his expression showed something far more valuable.
That was the hardest game I've played in a year. Thank you.
He left the bar as the salt breeze hit his face, the stars above just stars again. No grand casino, no alien gazes, just the sea and the quiet knowledge. He had read every face in the galaxy, but only human faces could ever truly read him back, and that was exactly how he wanted it. The boat drifted on a glassy sea, the only sound the gentle lap of water against the hull.
The galactic table doesn't even cross my mind anymore. Just this, just the horizon.
His face held the same unreadable calm that had confounded aliens, but now it was simply peace. He didn't need to read anyone out here. No tells, no lies, no high-stakes deception. The casino, the aliens, the fortune. It all felt like a fevered dream, receding with the tide. He had won a galaxy and given it away. The only prize that mattered was this silent, endless water.
They'll be calling me a legend out there, but legends don't get to just sit and watch the sun go down.
The boat turned gently, the sail catching a whisper of breeze, and the shoreline shrank further. There were no chips to count, no opponents to study. Only the sky and the sea and the steady beat of his own heart. And as the sun finally dipped below the edge of the world, the boat became a speck indistinguishable from the forgotten stars. The night rolled in, velvet and deep, carrying the scent of salt and distant rain. Jason didn't light the cabin lamp. He sat in the dark, letting the sea rock him like an old friend. His face unreadable as ever, softened by the darkness, held no secrets now. Above, the galaxy stretched indifferent. A billion stars, a trillion stories, none of them needing his attention.
I can read every face in that sky. They've got nowhere to hide.
He almost laughed. A quiet, private sound that the wind stole immediately. No more tables, no more tells. Just the small boat and the endless water, and the man who had chosen one over the other. Somewhere in the galactic core, a casino waited for a player who would never return. But here, on the edge of Earth, the only thing Jason Reeves wanted to read was the coming dawn. The boat sailed on, and the sea kept its secrets.